What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Joe from joesdaily.com. I recently returned home from a Mediterranean cruise on board the Costa Venezia. Now, this was my first time sailing on Costa Cruises, and after this Mediterranean itinerary, I decided I want to share with my fellow North Americans what the experience was like. So without further ado, here are 5 things I think North Americans should know about Costa Cruises before sailing with them. So first up, English speakers are in the minority. So what exactly does that mean? Well, Costa Cruises is an Italian cruise line. And though there are many different nationalities that own cruise lines, specifically for me being a North American, being, from America, I have only sailed on predominantly English-speaking vessels. So why does that matter? Now, I think that the average cruiser, if they've been on cruises, even in the Mediterranean, but they've been with a brand like, I don't know, Royal Caribbean or Carnival Cruise Lines, then chances are they went there with other Americans, or in this case, maybe Canadians, predominantly English-speaking people. Now, the reason why this matters, if it even matters to you, is that most people, when they go on cruises, from my experience, is that they want to be friendly with their other cruise goers. And traditionally, you would just speak to them. You just start up a conversation at the bar or the restaurant or wherever you may be. On this cruise, I experienced the complete opposite, but rightfully so. It's kind of like when you're in another country, if you've ever been to another country, and you can't assume that everyone is going to speak English. You're in their country, you should try to speak their language, or at least respect the fact that you may not understand one another. And it was very much like that on this cruise. For example, normally when I go to a cruise, I'll, maybe sit at a bar and just spark up a conversation, or on the other side of things, they'll spark a conversation with me. What I found on Costa Venezia, specifically a Costa Cruises experience, was that I sat there and kind of just hung out by myself. And that's fine, but I think that a lot of people, especially in North America, may not be used to it if they've never sailed on a ship like this before. And it's not to say that the staff didn't speak English. Most of the staff speak actually multiple languages. But yeah, I thought that was very interesting to note, because I think a lot of people, as I mentioned, aren't exactly used to that type of cruise if they've never sailed on a Costa Cruise or another ship that's not American-based. Is Costa Cruises safe? This is actually more of a broad question I wanted to cover, not just for this Costa Venezia experience, but also cruising in general, because this is like my 4th cruise during the pandemic. So I just wanted to kind of touch on really quick what Costa's doing, but also just how I think cruising gets a bad rap. So first off, it was very safe. Everyone has to be vaccinated, and you have to have a negative COVID test 48 hours before boarding the actual ship. So right then and there, that's not to say someone couldn't potentially bring COVID on board or another illness. But the thing is, there's a lot of safety protocols put in place so that everyone on board is as safe as they can be. Now, the mask mandate has dropped. I think all cruise lines have dropped that, specifically Costa Cruises. Most people on the ship were actually wearing their masks throughout the ship whenever they weren't outside. I personally wore mine off and on. When I went in the elevators, I wore mine just in case. Whenever I went into crowded theaters, I also wore my mask. They did actually recommend over the loudspeaker multiple times, please wear your mask if you're in a more confined space, such as like a theater, because obviously you're sitting around, you might be spreading natural germs just being in a close proximity with other people. So they do recommend that. And actually, I'm happy to report that about roughly 90% were wearing their masks in the theater, so you felt very safe. Also, I should mention that there are countless hand sanitization stations throughout. And you know what? Honestly, I was shocked because every time I went up to one, I expected it to be empty. You go into like a mall or anything like that with sanitization, and usually it's empty because so many people are using it. They were always full. I didn't come across one that wasn't full. Also, you see the staff cleaning off the tables constantly. All the staff are wearing their masks. I mean, there just was a lot of safety protocols put in place for everyone, and you just never for a moment did I feel like I was being in an unsafe environment. Even further, even some of the drink stations, like you couldn't get your own drink. And matter of fact, you had to order from a staff member to get a coffee or anything. And it was very fast. It wasn't like slowed down the process. Everyone was very happy. Even through the pseudo buffet lines, you couldn't grab anything yourself. The staff would put it on your plate. It was very, very nice, very well put together, stations. And just, like I said, overall just felt very, very safe. Less food at your disposal. Now, I know some of you are probably, the moment you hear that, you're like, well, yeah, good riddance. And I agree with you, because there are some cruise lines where you feel like there's too much food going around, and half the time you get off the ship by about 15 to 20 pounds heavier than you got on. But I did want to mention this because I feel like most people that cruise on like a Carnival or Royal Caribbean kind of just are constantly filling their plate up. And I felt like it was important to mention because I didn't want anyone to go on a cruise and not feel like they're being satisfied, because, some people go on a cruise to eat. They want to eat and drink and enjoy themselves, and, no judgment. But I do think that the lack of available food should be worth mention, because, there were even times where I was kind of a little peckish and I wanted to go maybe get a slice of pizza or something that I'm used to getting on other cruise lines that wasn't available to me. Now, to be fair, the Costa Cruises I was on, the itinerary I was on out of Istanbul, wasn't full. I think it was about 40 to 50% full. So in reality, there could have been a reason for that, meaning could have been a reason why there were some restaurants not open at certain times of day, because there's less people on board. So I won't hold them to that, but I just want to make it clear because, you never know who might be booking off of my personal videos or my blog posts that I write about. And I just want to be transparent because, this was my first impression of Costa Cruises. And from my experience, they definitely had less food available. But that's not to say they didn't have great options available or enough food available. It's just, it wasn't as much as you might experience on like a Carnival Cruises, which are notorious for having a lot of food available. One thing I did want to mention is Costa Cruises' initiatives to remove food waste. That's something I think that most cruise lines are trying to get better at, and Costa Cruises seem to be spearheading that. So when you're in, let's say, the Lido Marketplace, which if you've ever been on a cruise, you're very familiar with the Lido deck. It's usually where like the buffet is, the main grandiose food area is. And one thing I will say is that all the staff members are constantly putting different food in like almost different, let's call it recycle bins. So for example, soft food was put there and hard foods were put there, like maybe like eggshells and stuff like that. So it's very good to see how they were handling food waste. Even further, they actually have partnered with various ports to donate food so it doesn't go to waste, so it's going to go to people in need in these specific areas that they are sailing to. So I think that's fantastic. And I actually got to see it in action. Unfortunately, I don't have any videos or photos of this, but to see them offload food that's essentially going to go to waste or the trash bin, they actually are donating. And it's clean, it's healthy food. It's not like it's contaminated or anything like that. So the fact that they're working with the areas that they're visiting, that's pretty remarkable. And I think more cruise lines should follow suit because food waste is such a problem in the world. So to see a cruise line specifically where food waste is kind of a big deal, that's really cool. So good on you, Costa Cruises. Number 4 is entertainment is different. Now, I love cruise ship entertainment. How cool is it that you could just basically have entertainment at your fingertips all day? It's very much like Vegas in the sense of like, there's always something going on. So whether you're talking about things like bingo or I don't know, trivia, or you're talking about the bigger shows, maybe the comedy shows or the musical shows, stuff like that. The fact that cruises have pretty much everything is awesome. So one thing I want to point out is, my first reason for this video was the fact that English speaking is in the minority because, there's just a variety of languages from German, Russian, Spanish, English, all over the ship. So with that, you should know that there's not going to be like a comedy show. And I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but let me just dumb it down. If they can't have a comedy show in English or German or Spanish or Russian because, well, who's going to understand it? There's only going to be a small portion of people that actually understand what the comedian's saying. And this kind of goes hand in hand with also the shows. So for example, like I watched one of their performance entertainment acts and there was no dialogue. But the nice thing is that the performers translate to all languages because there's no speak. It's just skills and performance like dancing and music and stuff like that. So yeah, I wanted to point that out because I feel like a lot of people, like when they go to Vegas, they go for various reasons. Maybe it's for the food, maybe it's for the entertainment, maybe it's for gambling. And because this cruise line is, well, an Italian cruise line, they kind of had to cater to everyone, which in this case is no dialogue or no comedy shows because only certain people would get it. So yeah, it's not to say the entertainment is bad, it's just different. So last but not least, number 5 is that the Costa Cruises app is not available for North Americans. Now you might be wondering, Joe, why does that even matter? Well, let me tell you, as someone who is an experienced cruise traveler, I'm going to say it makes a world of a difference. I found myself constantly during the day lost with what was going on the ship. Now, I do want to point out that they do give you a pamphlet every single day with the day's activities. Matter of fact, they send it to you the night before in your cabin, so it's in the little slot, like your little mail slot, I call it. You can pick it up and you bring it in the cabin in the morning and you can kind of plan out your day. But you know what? I think it's safe to say that most people are technological and we all like to rely on these things. So for me, it was a little bit of a bummer because let's say I didn't bring the pamphlet with me. Maybe I'm wandering on the ship and I don't want to go back to my room. Well, I didn't know what was going on. Like I actually missed a bunch of activities that I could have done had I known via an app. The app obviously extends way further than just things to do on the ship. You can check your bill, you can book reservations such as excursions, you can book dining reservations, things like that. So why don't they have a North American app yet? Well, that's because they're going through actually an approval process, and it should be available somewhat soon. In fact, you might be watching this video after booking a Costa Cruises, and who knows, maybe it'll be available for on your ship. Now, I don't really know the legal logistics of why they don't have it available yet. I do know that there was something about approval process through North America, through Apple or Android or whatever it was, but I just wanted to point out that it is not available to North Americans yet, so definitely keep an eye out for that. So that's the end of the video. That was 5 things I think North Americans should know before sailing on a Costa Cruises itinerary. I hope you guys liked the video. If you guys have any questions about Costa Cruises that I could answer for you, please leave a question down below. I'll either answer them in the comments below, or if the question is good enough that I think I can make a video out of it, I'll make another video. As always, guys, I'm Joe from joesdaily.com. I do plan on writing a few articles, so if you want to head over to joesdaily.com, you can check out whatever I might be putting in the travel section, which is going to have all sorts of things from hotel stays to cruise experiences, etc. So please go visit joesdaily.com. And of course, you can find me on social media. All my links are down below. Definitely recommend you follow me on those because I do post a lot of content outside of my YouTube and outside of my blog. A lot of times it's photos, videos on my TikTok, on my Instagram. So yeah, go follow me down below. Till next time, guys, I'll see you soon. Peace.